Is it now a trend for kickboxing stars to take over in the UFC? Israel Adesanya entered the UFC with the 75 and 5 kickboxing record. He became the UFC's most active champion, winning 7 title fights in 3.5 years. Then, a former rival emerged from the kickboxing scene. Former Glory Kickboxing double champion Alex Pereira held a 2-0 record against Izzy in kickboxing. He joined the UFC in November 2021, and in late 2022, he finished Adesanya to win the UFC middleweight title. All these well-rounded MMA stars tried to take Adesanya's belt, but it was the kickboxer in Pereira who was able to do it. Izzy came back to beat Pereira the fourth time they met to complete a legendary rivalry. Since then, Alex Pereira won the light heavyweight title and defended it 3 times in 175 days this year, breaking the record for the shortest amount of time in between 3 title defenses. Just as Alex is building his reign in the light heavyweight division, we have another disruptor. Could another kickboxing rival enter the chat and steal some of the UFC's shine? We might just have the guy. Artem Vakhitov was a Glory light heavyweight kickboxing champion for 5 years until he lost a split decision to Alex Pereira. In an immediate rematch, he beat Pereira in another close fight to get his belt back. Now, he's a few wins away from their trilogy in the UFC. Earlier this year, Vakhitov won by first round knockout at Dana White's Contender Series. Alex Pereira was there and actually convinced Dana White to sign him. The two showed a ton of respect, but are hoping for an epic trilogy, which is hopefully for UFC Gold. Adesanya and Pereira have proven that kickboxers stay active given how often they fought in the UFC. So I assume Artem will do the same. Now we all know the UFC is going to try and fast track him to the light heavyweight championship. Whether you like it or not, there's a ton of money to be made in a trilogy with Poatan. Alex Pereira's path to a middleweight title shot was 2 unranked fighters, and then a top 5 fighter who was silly enough and had enough of an ego to stand and bang with him. Let's come up with a similar trajectory for Artem at light heavyweight. We don't know how good his wrestling defense is yet, but it's guaranteed that the UFC will put him in position to win. In his UFC debut, let him take on someone like Iwan Kutelaba. Almost every longtime UFC light heavyweight has had to face the gatekeeper of the unranked opponents. 13 of 18 of Kutelaba's wins have come by knockout, and he can mix in the wrestling at times. It's a winnable fight for Vakhitov, and that can also test his takedown defense. If he can defend the early takedown, he has a good chance of tiring Kutelaba out and landing a knockout blow. Next up, let's face Vakhitov against a former Glory Kickboxing title challenger. That's right, Dustin Jacoby. Jacoby used to be ranked and is always in exciting fights. He's quite a technical fighter as well, and a fight with Artem could be very interesting for the fans. It could be really exciting too. Since Artem is a proven kickboxer, he has a good chance of keeping this fight on the feet, and it should stay on the feet. Jacoby's a kickboxer. He's going to want to beat the kickboxing prospect. Should Artem get through these 2 fights, let's fast track him against a top 5 opponent. Let's go with Yuri Prohaska. Yuri will throw anything and everything, but at times, he can be careless. Alex Pereira found his chin in both times they fought. It's a super tough fight for Artem, but at least we know Yuri isn't super likely to shoot a takedown. It's a winnable fight for Artem. Yuri is wild, but he leaves openings to get hit. And what if Artem beats Yuri Prohaska better than Alex Pereira did? A top 5 victory in history with the champ, that will be more than enough to warrant a title shot. Given that kickboxers stay active, what if Vakhitov takes on Kutelaba in March, Jacoby at International Fight Week, and then Yuri next November in Madison Square Garden? That lines him up for a title shot in early 2026. If Alex Pereira can get through Magomed Ankalaev and have one other title defense in 2025, we could be in for an epic trilogy in 2026. If Alex loses his belt before, then have Vakhitov take on Kutelaba, Jacoby, and then Alex for the number 1 contender. Either way, these two have a good chance of crossing paths again. Do we know if Artem's takedown defense is enough to survive the highest level of MMA? Not yet. Is it fair for the UFC to fast track him to the title shot? Probably not. Are they going to do it anyway? Yep. So let's enjoy the ride and see if another glory kickboxer can avenge his foe and capture UFC gold. Let me know what you think in the comments and what video you'd like to see next.